Hey friends, welcome to this brief monologue episode that I want to shoot. I want to focus today on the topic of ultramarathons, and specifically ultramarathons as a metaphor for life. So the reason that I feel so passionate about talking about this won't be a super long episode, it'll be 15, 20 minutes. But the reason that I feel so passionate about sharing this is because this weekend, this past Saturday, I ran a 50K ultramarathon with a few friends outside of San Diego on the Pacific Crest Trail. And this was my third ultramarathon. I had run two the previous summer. I ran a 50K and a 50 miler. And I hadn't started this podcast when and after I ran those, but I have a podcast now. And so I wanted to share some takeaways. I wanted to share my why as to why I do such a thing. I wanted to share why the ultramarathon is a perfect metaphor in many ways for life, and why I think it's not really about the running, it's more about the discipline of it all. So that's what we're going to cover during this time. I want to get raw. I want to get some things off my mind that I was thinking about before, during, and after the ultramarathon. And so I'm excited to talk about this with you guys. I think it's really important. So the recap of the race, 50K is 32 miles. This one was 31 and a half. I did it in about 7 hours and 23 minutes. And it, like I said, it was outside of San Diego. So it was deserty, it was rocky, it was pretty warm towards the end of the day because I was out there for a long time. And there was a lot of climbing. It was 4,600 feet of elevation gain. So a lot of it was power hiking, dodging rocks. This was not my best time in the 50K. I actually ran it about an hour faster. I ran one last summer. And yes, there was less vertical gain in the one that I did last summer, but this one didn't feel as good. This one was a little more difficult for me mentally. I don't think I was in as strong of a headspace mentally, which is half the battle. Yes, it's strategy. Yes, it's training. Yes, it's nutrition. But I did not feel like my head was in this one pretty much for the entirety of the race. I think I knew really early on that this was not going to be as good of a race. I knew I wasn't going to PR. I knew that this was going to be difficult really early on. So, that was kind of the first initial road, bump in the road that I hit. It was, okay, I know I'm less fit than I was last summer. I had done less training. I knew that this was a more difficult course. It got really warm. I was there with friends, and we were all kind of racing each other in a way, not like actually, but you're there with three buddies. There's going to be some competitive juices flowing. So, that's just a bit of the adversity that came up during this race. I'd love to tell you that everything went smoothly and I crushed everything, and but that was not the case. That was the case last July when I ran the Leadville Silver Rush 50-mile race. That was very smooth. I had a coach. I had a really strong strategy. I had a lot of fitness. I felt great. And I negative split it, meaning I ran the back half of the race, the last 25 miles, faster than I ran the first 25, which is a testament to the preparation that I did. So that's just a little context as to what happened last Saturday. Wasn't anything like severe. I didn't get injured. It was just a general lack of preparation, which I paid the consequence for. So let's zoom out here for a second. Let's talk about the why. Let's talk about why would you ever run a marathon, let alone an ultramarathon? It's a really long time. It's a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of discipline. It's a lot of running, which is not really that great for your body. But to really get into the why, I think I need to zoom back a bit. I was never really a runner growing up. I never did cross country. I never did track. It was always something that I dreaded until COVID hit and I was cooped up in the house in college at the University of Georgia. And I needed a way to release stress, to get out of my own head, to not get off screens. And there was a trail right outside of where I lived my junior and senior year of college, right next to a creek. And I would go run a mile, 2 miles, with these like super shitty tennis shoes. And I just noticed how good I felt mentally after. It was not necessarily that I enjoyed the act of running. It was, I enjoyed the byproduct of what it revealed to me and how I felt after. And so in many ways, I got addicted to that feeling, that comfort of feeling good, those endorphins. And I'm a very outcome oriented person. As much as I'd like to say that I don't care about the outcome, I'm definitely, I like to measure my progress via outcomes. And so I signed up with 2 friends, a half marathon. And I was like, wow, the half marathon to me, 13 miles feels so incredibly long. And that was the thing that scared me. And so that's why I thought that it was a good idea to sign up, because I could do it with friends. We did it at this race in Seaside, Florida, which is right on the coast. So there's no hills. It's at sea level. It's fairly easy. I'm sure I can do this. And I did it and had a blast doing it. And then I remember thinking after I finished that race, my first half marathon, what would it be like to run a marathon? There's no way I can do that. What would it be like? And I think when you have those thoughts, you need to act on them. If there's the thought that's like, oh, there's no way I can start a business or run an Ironman or have that conversation with my family or my significant other, there's no way I can do that. That's your sign that you need to do that. The treasure lies in the cave that you're afraid to go into. And so fast forward to today, I'd run a few marathons. I ran the Austin Marathon in 2022, I think, or 2023. I ran the New York City Marathon in 2023. And then I moved out to Colorado, and people out here are a different breed of endurance athletes. And I wanted to spend as much time as I could outside, out in the mountains, on the trails, seeing beautiful places. And so as soon as I moved here, I signed up for a 50-mile ultramarathon, the Leadville Silver Rush, that I ran and completed last July. So, in many ways, I've talked about this on a previous podcast, but it started like a physical feat, running, right? I didn't love the art of running, but I loved the person that I became because of running. I became disciplined. I became much more conscious of the things I was eating, of the things I was consuming. I had to get up early. I couldn't go out and party all the time. And I really liked who I became through that process. And so as much as it started as like a physical feat, as just running 13 miles, 26 miles, 31 miles, 50 miles, it then became a mental game. It became I haven't really reached my limit of my potential. I wonder if I can hit that when I sign up for this 50-mile race. And so in many ways, it's just as much mental, if not more, mental, spiritual, emotional, and who I've become through that process as it is physical. The physical is table stakes. You need to be able to have the physical capabilities, but there comes a point when you're tons of miles into a race that your body's done. Your body is done. It's had enough. It wants to quit. Your brain wants to quit, but there's that spiritual aspect of how far can I push myself even though my body is giving out. And so in many ways, that's my why. I want to try and hit those limits for myself that I had originally not thought I had been able to hit. I want to push myself to those extremes and figure out who I am when I'm tired, when things aren't going according to plan. Do I quit? Do I roll over? Do I have a shitty attitude? Or does that elicit something stronger in me? Does that make me want to rise to the occasion and finish strong? And in many ways, that is who my younger self wanted. That 10-year-old, 15-year-old self, I always wanted my future self to be strong, to be persistent, to be capable, to be able to endure anything that's thrown my way. And I also want to impress my 80-year-old self. When I look back on my life, I don't want to have the regret of, oh man, I was in really good shape back then. I wish I would have pushed it a little bit more. I wish I would have done that race with those friends that scared the shit out of me. I don't want that regret. So that's my why. It's being the example, 1, for my younger self, 2, for my older self, and 3, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but for everybody else that is around me that can find some sort of little bit of inspiration from maybe biting off more than you can chew, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that person then goes to run an ultramarathon, which if you're interested and you want to do that and you're called to that in your heart, do it. Like, just send it. But I realize that that's not the case for everybody. For everybody, that thing that's calling them that they're scared of doing is having the conversation with their significant other about something that they don't like, or something that's been on their mind for a while that's building resentment, or it's starting that business or that creative outlet, or learning the new language. It's all of those things that we're scared of, right? The cave that we're most afraid of going into holds the treasure that we most dearly seek. So that's my why. I want to get into some takeaways. I want to get into just 3 takeaways that I had from Saturday, from the 50K outside of San Diego. 1, don't half-ass anything. This was something that I was thinking about the entire race. I was thinking about how I hadn't done enough training. My biggest week mileage-wise was only 27, 28 miles prior to running 31 in San Diego, which I knew going into it, I'd be able to finish having not trained that much. But I didn't make myself proud. I didn't exceed my expectations for myself. And so it made me think that if you're going to do something, you can't just do it just to check the box and just to, say that you did it. It's more, I'm doing this and giving this my entire best effort, and I'm giving this my all. And I wish I would have done that with this race. And I really, truly regret not having done that. I wish I would have put in more miles for longer, had a stronger base of aerobic capacity, spent more time in the mountains, because that would have given me a lot more confidence, and that would have made Saturday go a lot smoother and be a lot less difficult. So that's takeaway number 1. Don't half-ass anything. Takeaway number 2, pain fades away if you go towards it. So I forget where I was in the race, but I stepped on a rock the wrong way, and I had felt this blister that I had on my pinky toe. It felt like it popped, and it was so much pain. And there was a moment where I had to stop running, and I had to try and not put weight on where that blister had just popped. And I had then thought to myself that the quickest way that I can get rid of this pain, because I still need to finish the race. I can't just walk the whole time. What am I going to do? Walk the whole time and limp the whole time? I wouldn't be able to finish. So the lesson there is, the more I tried to go into the pain, the more that I tried to, instead of running away from it, going towards it and going towards, man, that blister really hurts. Let me try and sit with that pain there for a little while. Let me try and be with that pain as opposed to trying to escape it, because I knew that if I sat with it for a little while, it would subside. And I had another blister pop 5-10 miles later, and that hurt like shit, but the pain subsided quicker because I did the exact same thing. I went with the pain as opposed to going away from the pain and running from the pain. And I think that that's a huge metaphor for life that we'll cover here at the end. And finally, the third takeaway, it's less about you and it's more about who you bring with you, right? So masculinity is who you can serve, who you can bring with you on the journey of life, and who you can support on the journey of life. And so that's what, honestly, I'm really most proud of for this race, is that I convinced 3 other buddies to run it with me who had never run an ultramarathon before. I had run a few. I signed up for this a few months ago, texted them, hey, you guys interested? And they were down. And that brings me such a deep level of satisfaction that I can be their entry into the sort of self-discovery that something like this entails. And I'm sure that they're not going to forget this, that moment of crossing the finish line or of training, ever. And that's really why we're here. It's not to make it about ourselves. It's not to make it selfish. It's to really push the boundaries and bring others with us, whether that be family, whether that be friends, whether that be people on social media, whether that be being a positive example. I think the ripple effect is real. If you put out positivity, if you work hard, people are attracted to that. So those are my 3 takeaways from the ultramarathon that I ran last Saturday. And really, to round it all out, the ultramarathon is a metaphor for life. It's important to ride the highs. It's important to realize that if you're in a low, if you're in a really bad state, if things aren't going well, it's all temporary. You got to think about yourself on a roller coaster, right? If you're down, you're on your way up. If you're up, enjoy it because you're on your way down. And in many ways, the ultramarathon is the perfect example of that. You can be feeling great at one moment and then 5 minutes later be puking or be shitting your pants or be, not being able to eat food. You could be cramping, anything like that. So ride the highs and appreciate the lows when they come, because it's all superficial. It all comes and goes. The last piece that I wanted to touch on is that endurance will always beat speed, right? So if you can be really persistent and and deal with the highs, deal with the lows, go slow if you need to, that will always beat speed if you have the right mindset and you are able to shoulder a lot of pain. Because I'm not a fast runner. I'll be the first to say that. Like, I'm not. But I think that because I'm slow, I learn to appreciate the process a lot more. And then finally, the journey is the reward. It's not crossing the finish line. It's the training. It's everything. It's who you become through the process. That's the reward. That's why you do these difficult things, whether it's starting a business, whether it's competing in jiu-jitsu, whether it's running an Ironman, any of these things, the journey and who you become through the process is the reward for doing these things. It's not the outcome. It's not the, crossing the finish line or winning the tournament. It's who you become through the process. So thank you guys for listening. I felt called to share this because it's very poignant in my mind as I just completed the race last Saturday. I hope you guys got something from this. And if you're interested, if you're called, do the thing that you're being called to do, regardless of whatever anybody else thinks. It's not going to make sense to anybody else, but it doesn't have to. So if that's an ultramarathon, great. If that's starting a business, great. If that's having a difficult conversation, great. If that's calling your family member that you haven't talked to in years, great. Do the thing that you're scared to do, and be the example for others. Cheers.